I'm Mary Starr. I'm very excited to have back once again as our guest, Joel Maldonado. No doubt many of you have seen him on here before. He's the author now of two books, the most current of which is called Life, Liberty, and Political Happiness. Joel, it is not missed on me how literally prophetic you were in some of the things that you wrote in that book. So I want you to just start talking about, you shared your life growing up and a lot of things that are unique to you, but you totally nailed it on some political things that we unfortunately have seen play out in the last week.
You're absolutely right, Mary. First of all, thanks for having me on your podcast again, once again. I wish I could rejoice in the fact that this book has been prophetic, but it's nothing but doom that has come. And it's something that it didn't take a genius to predict, but it's something that I write in this book that time and time again, people from the unhinged left continue to act out in this way with violence, with hatred, with vitriol, and all in the name of supporting their side or getting their side right. But what I write in the book is that it has nothing to do with them being convicted and principled or having any kind of morals or standards for their side. It's just as plain and simple that they want to control you. And the way that they want to control you is by silencing you. And what they did with Charlie Kirk was the ultimate in silence, and that's putting him to death. And that is regrettable because he was just such an amazing man who professed his faith and absolutely nothing wrong to them. Just because you have an opposing view does not make it hatred. And in fact, he would espouse rhetoric. Not rhetoric, but dialogue for the two sides to talk about their differences and have a healthy debate. And he was killed for that. But I argue that it's all part of the autophobia that I write in my book. Autophobia is simply self-hate, and it's not a made-up term by me. It is an actual psychological term accepted by experts and psychologists and psychiatrists. It's when somebody truly hates themselves. They hate themselves, they hate their country, they hate their heritage, they hate the history, so they want to revise it. They hate their sex, they hate, you name it, Mary, you
Mhm.
name it. And that's what autophobia is. Now, when you combine it with despotism, and what I use in the book to describe this unhinged left is the autophobic despots, because at the end of the day, that's what it is. They want to control you. A despot is someone who is a control freak, and they want to, and an unhealthy. We're all kind of, in many ways, sometimes control freaks, right, on little things that are important to us, but not in an unhealthy way, like this, where they just want to, but they end up showing their hypocrisy. The autophobic despot wants to silence the other side. They want to control the other side, and that's because they're not grounded in their own principles, Mary. I'll be glad to articulate certain examples if you want me to.
I would like you to do that. And I'd also like you to point out why you think that we are seeing this, because this is not something that we've seen to this extent in years past. And what do you think is fueling it?
Well, we're seeing it because society has become more and more depraved. If you look at the common denominator in what these unhinged autophobic despots do, is they silence anything that stands for traditional values and things like, for example, authority. They hate God. So there you go. Right off the top, they're wanting to nullify that there is an all-powerful being that has all authority through Jesus Christ in heaven and on earth. All authority goes through Christ. Now, luckily for us in this country, our founding fathers found that important. And so they had these inalienable rights that guaranteed in our Constitution life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And those are inalienable rights given to from God Himself. So nobody can infringe on those rights. And so that's why our Constitution is very unique And luckily, it was founded on Judeo Christian values. So, a lot of our laws that are derived from the Constitution, all laws should be derived from that authority, which is here on earth, it's the Constitution, in the United States at least. It's the Constitution. So, all the laws are, if they're good laws, they are derived from the Constitution. And so they hate the Constitution. They hate America. They hate our slave owning forefathers. They hate everything. Founding fathers. They hate everything. So you see how they're trying to nullify anything that is of authority. So authority is a big thing in everything, and it has to do with the rule of law and things like that. So if they can successfully nullify that, then they can argue where there is no absolute truth. When they say that there's no absolute truth, then everything is now blurred, Mary. So now a man and a woman can't truly be defined. Do you see what they're doing there? What they
Well,
do is they blur the lines.
what they're doing is they have fallen prey to the lie of the enemy, Satan. Satan is the father of all lies. And there's a spirit of deceit that has been rampant in this country for several years. And that is the core of what has caused all of this. That right there is at the core of these problems. And you're totally right that they are not just questioning, but they are challenging authority. And authority comes from God. And that's a huge conflict right there with Satan. And so it all fits together.
Right. And if they have no hope in their heart, no love or any of the fruit of the spirit, if you don't have anything like that, it's all vile evil. And so that's why they want to not talk about God, because God has rules. God has his laws and his way things are done. Christianity has faith, and there's good things, love and joy, and they hate. That's what they do. So
Right.
same thing with the Constitution. So here on earth, they want to nullify the Constitution and our founding fathers, make them out to be a bunch of slave driving idiots. And it just goes on and on with the now this is nothing new, because we saw it in the 60s with Jane Fonda, 60s or 70s with Jane
We did.
Fonda.
We did.
And she was a trailblazer, really. I mean, because that was egregious what she did back then. But now it's like it's common ground around here, because this generation, only like 24% of Gen Z believe that we are an exceptional country, and so that's autophobia. They've been taught since they were young that this country was made wealthy because taking advantage of the disadvantaged other countries and slavery and the such. They revise history. They change everything. I write in my book about how they bastardize the hierarchy, the traditional roles of the father. Now, if you're a strong father figure, you're a toxic man. That's just example after example that these young people have been bred to believe. So now we raise them to be a bunch of people that can't accept absolute truth. And I'll give you an example of that. Like, and I write in my book about how all these children are, since they're very young and competing in soccer, baseball, basketball, whatever sport you put them in, everybody gets a trophy. You know
That's right.
why? Because there is no winners and there is no losers anymore. Everybody wins, everybody gets a trophy. And then you get a little older, and then, oh, nobody fails. Everybody is unique. So you will be graded in a different standard, and things like that. There's no pass or fail anymore. There's a there So they go their whole life being told that they're okay the way they are and they can do nothing wrong. They don't understand rejection. They don't understand losing. And that's part of life, Mary. I don't like to lose, and I sure as heck don't like to be rejected, but
No.
it is part of life. And the if a pet dies, all of a sudden he just went off. Parents hide them and don't face the reality and make it a life lesson for the children. They're shielding them. So now these Gen Zs are being told, "Wait a minute, I'm a man who identifies as a woman, and I'm wearing a dress. So your truth should be that I'm a woman." because my truth is that I'm a woman, so you are a hater if you don't accept my truth. It's because they're so used to not being told the opposite. It is always about what they want and what they need, or what they believe is their truth. It's always up for grabs. It's never absolute, and that goes contrary with everything.
What I see is that they are trying to force their truth on us. They don't understand that their freedom stops where mine and yours begins. They don't get that. And that is a fundamental problem.
They love to talk about science. When science contradicts them, then all of a sudden they don't want to hear it. So I love genetics. I really do. And to this day they haven't XX is still XX, female, XY is still a man, and there's nothing they can do about it. And that's an absolute truth. It's not your truth, Mary.
Right.
It's the absolute truth, that the way God engineered a man and a woman. So that's the absolute truth. And so if we see the absolute truth and agree with that, and they come in with their truth, then that's when there's the disagreement. Now we could have our own crazy view, and I'm not saying people on the right don't have their own crazy views. It's very possible, but what I'm saying is what's consistent here, the violence that we're seeing because somebody doesn't agree with you politically, is always coming from the left. I mean, that's the way it is. It's because they are unhinged. They're not well.
One of the things that I respected Charlie Kirk for more than anything else is he used God's word as the absolute. That was the truth. It is the truth. There is no other truth. And he did not back down. He stood firm in his belief. And someone recently said they may not have agreed with him, but they respected him because he died for what he believed in.
Yeah. Yeah, and Mary, he would always mention Bible verses and
Yeah.
passages. He would back it up. It wasn't just his
Yeah.
opinion. He would
Yeah.
always say, and then he would argue also with logic, with their logic, and said, if you believe this way, and then he'd get them to, just like, he'd quiet them. So he was just really a genius. He had a photographic mind and memory. I mean, he was just really good at, and so he was definitely a threat to them, and he needed to be silenced. Nobody out there can say anything hateful came out of his mind.
Yeah.
Again, just because you disagree with something doesn't make what you're saying hateful. Like the left will say things that I completely disagree with. I'm not categorizing it as hate speech though. I'm just saying, no, I don't agree with that. You're wrong. And then we can argue about it with reason and logic.
That's exactly right. And the thing that's disturbing is that people think that they have to have the absolute last word and they have to win every time. What happened to the old thing about we can just agree to disagree? We may not see eye to eye on something. That's okay. We talk about it. We can change our mind or not. But at the end of the day, we still respect each other and we still have a relationship. And that's where so many people are just missing it today.
You know, Mary, as I'm looking at your beautiful new studio, I
Thank
look back and see this nice steel art that you have, and I have steel art of myself for patrol related stuff, and I love steel art, and I obviously you do too, and you have patriotic themes back there, but that might not be everybody's cup of tea, right? Some people
Right.
maybe don't like, but they're not going to come look for you and kill you for it, right? I mean,
No.
I love German chocolate cake, and you may love a different kind of. You may like tres leches cake. I don't know what kind of cake you like, but I'm certainly not going to go look for your vehicle to deface it because of your likes and tastes. So, what my point is, if we can accept and respect people's unique likes and takes on things and tastes and and points of view, then why politically can't we differentiate on that? There are all kinds of differences in opinions, and that's why I love German chocolate cake, and you may like some other type of cake. But just because you differ from me, I'm not going to go look for your vehicle to deface it or anything like that. My point in saying all this, Mary, is why in the world is it okay to have differences on other things like that, but when it comes to politics or religion, it's time to kill somebody? that's when people cannot take it anymore. God made us in a very unique way. He did not make a bunch of cookie cutters. He didn't cookie cut us. That is why we have free will, and
Yes.
and it would be a very boring world if we were all very robotic, did the same thing, like the same thing. And so we all unfortunately, when we have free will, some people do stupid things, but that's all part of it. We choose to do the right thing, but again, it goes back to liking to having accepting the authority that exists, the rule of law and everything that exists. And when you don't, and when you can't accept that truth, and when you try to blur the lines, is when you start having this kind of hatred. So if you go out to Austin, Texas with your MAGA cap, Mary, you may not make it back. I mean, that's the
That's a
sad
fact.
truth. And you definitely wouldn't make it back if you were in San Francisco or somewhere, or Portland, Oregon. And
Mhm.
what's that say about our society?
Well, those people who espouse the whole thing about being tolerant and accepting of others, they are only tolerant and accepting if you agree with them. If you disagree with them, tolerance and acceptance is done.
Well, there's the hypocrisy I tell you that I write about in the book.
That's right.
These people, for example, that say they want to save the environment and will fly a jet airplane all the way to Africa to tell them how to save the environment. You know,
Right.
that's what I'm talking is it's the hypocrisy of that. They in the book I mention a lot about growing up in poverty and how I just out of habit, because I was raised that way. If I leave a room, I turn off the lights. If I'm not in between brushing my teeth, I turn off the water till I need it again. It's just I these things that I do. It's not because I'm an environmental psycho. It's not a left or right issue. To me, it's just the way I was raised, and to be a good steward of our environment is what I'm called to do. But I'm sure as heck not going to go and hurt somebody who's walking down the street with a straw in their hand, sipping out of a plastic water bottle. Why would I hurt them? Or why would I chain myself to a tree? Why would I do psychotic stuff like that? But again, it's the autophobic despots that are doing such things, and it doesn't end there. They want to destroy all the cows because of their methane gas, right? Because they have flatulence.
Right.
But yet get mad at me for eating a steak dinner. Wait a minute, you wanted to kill this cow, and now you're mad at me for eating steak. You see the hypocrisy, and I go on in my
Right.
book, Life, Liberty, and Political Happiness, about that hypocrisy. And again, it's because they want to control you. Now, as far as guns, they want your guns so they can tell you what to do. And then when they can't get your guns, since you're not doing what they say, they kill you with guns. You see the hypocrisy there? This whole thing, it's always the left. They try to assassinate President Trump twice. They killed Charlie Kirk. And it's people that are saying that they don't want guns because of violence. All it does is solidify on our side that maybe we should have guns to protect ourselves. Isn't that a novel idea?
Well, I really like one thing that I heard that Erica, Charlie Kirk's wife, said. She said, "You have no idea what you have unleashed." And she is so right. And we are seeing that play out throughout not just America, but around the world. This is a watershed moment in the history, not just of America, but of our world, the
Mhm.
global
And
population.
you resonate. Charlie Kirk resonated with everybody,
It
including
did.
all the youth of today, Gen Z, whether love him or hate him, or whether you're a liberal or he was an icon. Everyone knew, everyone saw his reels, everyone would see his TikToks, everyone would see these kinds of things. So he was like an icon. So when he's murdered in front of everybody, and now with social media, everybody got to see that horrific murder and assassination, and it will be ingrained in their minds forever, and it will be forever something that people will remember, like John F. Kennedy's
Exactly.
assassination. People will always remember this guy who was a conservative mind, a very solid conservative mind, who was killed for speaking the truth. For our side would say speaking the truth, the other side would say for speaking. But the thing is, he was silenced. And for like mentioned earlier, Mary, for the tolerant left, they sure are pretty intolerant when it comes to people disagreeing with their views.
It was a sad day in America. I was sickened when I heard this. It was a sad day around the world, but I am firmly convinced that it is not going to be a life lost in vain and that there will be something good that comes out of it. And I think we will see that play out in the weeks ahead. Thank you so much for coming on because your book ties so perfectly with this event. Tragically, it does tie with it. You didn't intend that when you wrote the book, of course, but
No,
you
I mean, I knew that this will never end. As you were saying those words, Mary, I was thinking to myself, well, the left has been saying forever and ever when somebody disagrees with them, they call them Nazis, they call them haters. They say use all these strong lingo, and then it brainwashes some of these people that
Mhm.
are already loose cannons. They're already mentally ill. That's really the issue here, is because they don't accept absolute truth. So anything they do is just kind of out there. So when they see somebody who has been labeled as a fascist, well, then I'm going to do the right thing and I'm going to kill a fascist. And
Mhm.
that's going to keep on happening, unfortunately, Mary, until that's why you rightfully said that this book is prophetic, because I said that as long as this autophobic despotism doesn't get treated or addressed, it's going to keep happening. And so I appreciate you having me on your podcast and to talk about it. And if any of your listeners want a copy, it can be found on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, or any um, really any place that sells good books.
Well, I have enjoyed my copy of it tremendously. You did a great job. So, congratulations to you on another successful book.
Thank you, Mary, and I love your studio.
Thank you very much. I'm very thankful to have it. Kudos to my good friend Michael Cooper for helping pull it together and make this happen. So, thank you. I appreciate your kind words and look forward to having you back on again soon.
Would God bless.
Thanks. God bless you.
Thanks for watching the Awake to Truth podcast. Visit our website at awaketotruth.org and connect with Mary Starr on X at awaketotruth_ and on Rumble at Awake to Truth Ministries. The Awake to Truth podcast, a beacon of hope in a world shrouded by shadows.